Great. Good afternoon and welcome to everybody that's joined us on this Friday afternoon. It's a real joy and pleasure to have you with us. And I see some of the names that we have here have been with us for a long time. You've been on this journey, this SETA to 𝗤𝗖𝗍𝗍𝗀 journey, an adventure, and sometimes a little frustrating, but also very, very informative. So what we'll do is that we're going to do the presentation. I'm going to record it. I am recording it. At the end of the presentation, we're going to ask you to ask your own questions, maybe jot them down, ask the questions. Then Natalie will upload this recording to YouTube, and you'll be able to access it. She will provide all of the participants with the URL, and you'll be able to go on there and watch it over and over and over. Maybe there's a partner, maybe there is somebody that you want to share it with, maybe you just want to check it out again and again and again, which should be a good idea, and you would then have access. So with that in mind, I'm going to go straight into the slide share. I'm going to get into there and ask everybody just to mute themselves. So at this stage, I'm going to ask Penny to introduce herself again. Then I'm going to ask Natalie to introduce herself so that you know who we're dealing with or who you're dealing with. Okay, over to Penny.
Thanks, Ken. So I am Penny, and I am Ken's wife and also co-founder of INTRA some 13 odd years ago. And I'm more on the finance side of the business, the delivery side of the business. I control the e-learning platform, and also since January of last year, heavily invested on the accreditation side of the business with regards to the 𝗤𝗖𝗍𝗍𝗍𝗀 and Department of Employment and Labour, etc. Back to Ken.
Great. Well, back to Natalie. Natalie, would you like to introduce yourself quickly?
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Natalie, and I'm the CRM manager. So I'm usually your first point of contact on your journey to becoming a licensee. I'm here to answer any of your initial questions, send you any information that you need. I will drop my details in the chat, and it's great to have you with us today.
Absolutely. And just a bit of celebration, was Natalie's birthday on Sunday. So once again, my darling, happy birthday to my daughter. And I happened to be with her down in Cape Town. So there we go. Let's get straight into the presentation. So in 2017, there was a very interesting thing that happened. The Department of Employment and Labour transitioned to SETA as far as the first aid training was concerned. If you remember, General Safety Regulation 3 spoke about 3 levels of first aid training. It was level 1, 2, and 3. They then said, as a result of an intervention from the Department of Higher Education, that training should be dealt with by higher education. And we went through the transition from just being regular first aid trainers into SETA accredited trainers, and people were introduced to the SETA accreditation system. Now, all of that was fine and well. I think we all managed that transition. However, we saw that a while later, there was a transition from SETA to 𝗤𝗖𝗍𝗍𝗍𝗀. And that discussion and debate came up over and over and over and over again. And this is where we are now. We've now just birthed a new phase in this whole exciting journey. And we really are. This is like the baby shower. We really are happy to be part of it. We're still here. And for those of you that have come with us on this journey through our webinars, through our coffee club, through our presentations, thank you for your support. And hopefully this is going to mean something really significant to you. Okay, so you got an invitation from Natalie saying, come to the launch of the 11 𝗤𝗖𝗍𝗍𝗍𝗀 programs. And hallelujah, it's starting to happen. So here we go. I want to start off by saying that I'm not a lawyer. Although I've got a background in law enforcement, I enjoy legislation. I enjoy reading this stuff and interpreting it, and I enjoy chatting to people about the legislation, but I'm not a lawyer. If you do need a lawyer, you can reach out. Saiosh, the South African Institute of Occupational Safety and Health, have an advocate who would be able to provide legal advice to members. Or alternatively, I can put you on to one or more of the people that I know that are attorneys, and they know the Occupational Health and Safety Act. So Penny introduced herself. I'll do a quick introduction of myself. Having been a policeman for a couple of years, I joined the Navy. I was a policeman in the Navy. Then we started the Marines. And from there, I decided time to earn some money. And I joined Commerce and Industry and worked as a security manager at a large national key point. And while I was there, I was introduced to safety. I had no clue about occupational health and safety, but they sent me on all the NOSA courses. And after a while, I decided and got an offer from NOSA and worked for NOSA for 5 years. And I then saw the opportunity. So I think that I was one of the first training providers in South Africa, if not the first, to actually go into competition to NOSA. Now, Competition just meant that we were providing the services well over and above what they were doing. And I started a company called INTRA-Train. INTRA-Train grew and grew and grew and grew. We then landed up in a situation where we were in Cape Town, Durban, Joburg, PE. We had about 20 staff members. And during that journey, I learned an enormous amount about myself and sales and marketing and advertising and administration and all those sorts of things. However, it was overwhelming. To be absolutely honest, it was truthfully overwhelming. So I moved into leadership training and supervisory training and things of that nature. But a while later, Penny and I were just saying, what can we do for training providers, people that are setting themselves up in business, maybe never been in business before. Penny's been in business, small business, longer than I have. And we then said, right, let's put this business model or mechanism together. And we'll talk a little bit about that, but we'll talk specifically about how we have been impacted by the transition from Dell to SETA, SETA to 𝗤𝗖𝗄𝗎𝗆. Okay, so having said that, that's the team, and those are some of our licensees. We currently have licensees from Cape Town to Cairo, and I think in 8 different countries in Africa. And we've got a support team that we work with, and slowly but surely, this is really reaching into Africa and making a huge advantage. How many licensees do we have, Penny?
Currently, it's over 100.
So it's 100 licensees, and that makes a very, very interesting opportunity for you, because you don't have to hire 100 people. What you can do is you can network with 100 people in numerous African countries as well, and that then becomes part of the business model that we talk about. Enough. So I spoke about Dell 2017, SETA 2023, and then into this whole transition with the 𝗤𝗖𝗄𝗎𝗆. We got a notification with the Department of Higher Education and Training where they said something like 11,000 unit standards that had been established by SACWA were to be cancelled. Now, there was an outcry, and we participated in a petition, and the Department of Employment and Labour then said, oops, okay, what we'll do is we will extend some of them. Some are cancelled, that's it, they've expired. But we'll extend some of them to 2026, to June 2026. So please pick that date in your mind. It's a very, very important date. Then they also said no new SETA accreditations whatsoever. However, there's a bit of a discussion about the MICT SETA, and we're not exactly sure of that. We're still trying to find out whether that is the case that they're still accrediting. But be that as it may, don't worry about that. Let's talk about what's coming. The legislation in South Africa is quite specific. We know that there's something like 17 million employees in South Africa, and we know that the Occupational Health and Safety Act is the primary piece of legislation. There is, of course, the Mines Health and Safety Act, but we focus our attention on the Occupational Health and Safety Act. And Section 8 says the following: the employer must establish the hazards, the precautionary measures, and then provide information, instruction, and training. Straightforward. It's the basis for all health and safety in South Africa. If you're doing health and safety training, it's not based on this, then it's probably under another piece of legislation, maybe maritime, maybe railways, maybe aviation. But for the majority of South Africans, this is the section. And I'm going to urge you to study that section. It's not a lot to read, but study it and understand what it says. Okay, so having said that, we then see, as a result of this, the employer must continue. So they know the hazards, they've written the precautionary measures, and they've got the training or information, instruction and training in place. And they've got a trained supervisor who's going to be enforcing all of this. Then Section 13 says every employee, and I joke with people and I say, how many employees? All, every single person, every employee must be made conversant with the hazards and precautions. Now, if you happen to be in the health and safety training business, where you're a consultant, you will know this section. And if you're in the training industry, you will know every employee must be made conversant. And there's a huge opportunity for you if you're thinking of setting yourself up as a training provider. Now, more about that later on. You may or may not know that risk assessment, identify the hazards, comes up in numerous regulations. And there they are. I did an extract. I hope I've got them all. But you can see this is not new. The primary piece of legislation is the Occupational Health and Safety Act and Section 8. Then we've got all these other regulations where risk assessment comes up and is spoken about. And there's the regulations. If you want, I'll send you a copy of this at some other stage. But please note, this is legal compliance. And we know that the Occupational Health and Safety Act is, in fact, criminal legislation. But more about that at a later stage. So what we say to people is, right, obviously, if you want to run training programs, you should ideally be 𝗤𝗖𝗄𝗎𝗆 accredited. In some instances, it's compulsory. In other instances, it's not compulsory. So we'll talk you through that as well. And that's the invitation. Now, we put this business model together, and the business model is very much like a franchise. It's actually, in terms of the Consumer Protection Act, it's actually a license. And you can check out the Consumer Protection Act for that. And we've got these different elements. But today is not the day that we're going to be talking about these elements. That's in a video, and Natalie will be able to provide you with documentation and a link to a video where we unpack each one of these elements. In the license, we've got 4 different types of licenses. It's actually 5. I'll start at the bottom, called the starter, the introductory program, the basic, the prime, and now a new one called Prime Plus, and the Platinum license. We'll discuss those individually. Prime is the main one when it comes to QCTO accreditation. And at the same time, as of today, we start our Black Friday special. The Black Friday special will run for a month as an incentive to get you and help you get up and running so that in 2026 you will be ready for the marketplace. And I trust that this will help you enormously. The Black Friday special entails a 10% discount on all our fees, and you can chat to Natalie about that, and or Penny or myself. And this just relates to the terms and conditions saying payment before 30th of November 2025. Okay, so if you happen to be watching this video and not the actual live presentation, you can chat to Natalie or you can chat to Penny or myself. Great. From there, we then discovered, as a result of the fact that there are common dangers, hazards, and risks in the workplace, that there was need for training material. So we developed and have been developing for some time now, training material that will cover these topics. We've got 25 programs with more coming. 26 has just been added, and those 26 programs are pure legal compliance. The law says do that. The law says identify the hazards and train the people. And that's what we've got over here. So I want to point out that there are 1 or 2 programs which are a little bit, they're covered in both instances, QCTO and Department of Employment and Labor, such as number 15. Number 15 is the first track, the First Aid Life Skills Program. We'll talk more about that and how you can run first aid courses without being accredited, legitimately so. However, this is not a General Safety Regulation 3 program. I just wanted to point that out to you. Similarly with working at heights, and or fall track, as we call it. It's not a construction regulation workshop. That's number 13. All right, having said that, all of these programs are available individually off our website. You can go there, you can request the training material catalog, and you can see the course content, you can see the duration and things of that nature. This is non-credit bearing training. Important to note that this is not accredited training. This is complying with the legislation. The law says do it. So where we see accredited training being a requirement is where the legislation, the regulation requires that a person be competent. And I'm sure you're familiar with that term, competency and so forth. And it's defined in many regulations where it says the person must be competent, which then means that this person, and it says there, where appropriate qualifications and training are registered in terms of the NQF Act, the National Qualification Framework Act of 2008, those qualifications and that training must be regarded as the required qualification and training. Now, it sounds like a lot of blurb, but it means that that has to be accredited. Simple as that. And then there is an interesting little subparagraph of the subsection B where it talks about, and this person must be familiar with the Act and the applicable regulations made under the Act. And now here's where I started discovering how many health and safety training courses fall flat on their face, because they talk about the subject, but they don't talk about the Act. And that competent person is not familiar with the Act and the applicable regulations. Ooh, big one there. Okay, so now here's an interesting thing. There's a draft construction regulation that came out recently, and it's up for discussion. I think the discussion closes maybe at the end of this month. But they changed the definition for competent person. Notice, there's no mention of the NQF Act. Ha! Is that an error? Is that deliberate? We don't know. But at this stage, please take note that in terms of the draft construction regulations, there will be no definition of a competent person. Where do we find competency requirements in these different regulations? I've highlighted the 4 top ones, which are the most common: first aid, lifting equipment, working at heights, and risk assessor. But you do find it in those other regulations as well, and we'll provide you with more information. Now, when we enter into the conversation about QCTO, it starts literally from Department of Higher Education, then SACWA, then SETA, and QCTO on the same level. So you can almost imagine that SETA and QCTO are 2 legs of the 𝗤𝗲𝗃 mechanism. There are other legs, but we won't talk about them now. And it's important to know they all have their own lexicon. They have their own language. And you're going to come across this confusing situation in South Africa where people will talk about accreditation when it's not, or agreements when it's not required, or there is agreement required and it's not in place, or alignment or approval or certification or competency or compliance or registration or verification. And I come across people all the time. They say, Ken, is your training material accredited? And I go, no, training material can't be accredited. Who told you that? Oh, my brother-in-law at the Braai. And I go, no, dude, you've got to get it right. And it is really important that you study this. If you're going to be in the health and safety training game, please make sure you know and understand this and are able to define these individually and independently. Now, we are right at the bottom with licensed, and that's a Consumer Protection Act thing. Okay, so please note, very important that you as a trainer or training provider and or a safety consultant, that you know and use the correct terminology. Okay. So now I'm sounding like a teacher. Penny was a teacher and she could literally unpack it. So as part of this journey, what we've been doing is we've been talking and researching and backwards and forwards and communicating. And I'm going to ask Penny just very, very quickly to talk about what she's been doing with the QCTO and the 𝗤𝗍𝗄𝗃𝗃.
Thanks, Ken. So fortunately, we've had a great response from 𝗤𝗍𝗄𝗃𝗃 and from LGCETA and from the QCTO, and they're keeping us up to speed with what's going on. But originally, we did about 4 different monthly updates. Some of you might have been at some of those sessions where we were really struggling to get information. I think we've got a lot of questions answered, more questions answered. I don't say that it's all the questions answered, but definitely a lot more questions answered. And there seems to be a lot more progress.
Absolutely. Now, it's quite exciting to note that the QCTO and the 𝗤𝗍𝗄𝗃𝗃 are communicating with us. And it's taken some time to establish our credentials and make sure that people know who we are and what we do. And we'll share this with you. Now, if you want to go back and do a bit of homework, you can go onto our YouTube channel and you can then watch the videos on the various. There are 4 sessions that we've run up to now. Today is the 5th one. Okay. QCTO also has its own terminology, and I'm sure you're familiar with this. They've got things called full qualifications, which are trades and occupations and careers, part qualifications, and skills programs. That's our focus area. And the focus area of skills programs, it's low credits, 8 or less credited. That's really where we focus our attention. And there's a history there in terms of the QCTO saying they didn't want to deal with us, and then eventually they accepted the fact that they need to deal with us. But if you think of it, a health and safety representative, it's not a trade, it's not an occupation, it's not a career, it's a volunteer activity. And that's what we're focusing on. Okay, so if you want to track and monitor this, go to these 2 websites. The first one is the QCTO Skills Program website, and the next one is the QCTO Part Qualification and Qualification website. Maybe you want to grab your phone right now and just take a photograph of that screen, and then you can go to that. We go there every single day. Penny?
Absolutely, every day, especially with the promises made. So we're very expectant.
Absolutely. So it's really good that you monitor that. Okay. Then back in 2023, we received notification that they had published the first skills program that we could use. Now, there are a lot of skills programs, but many of them we can't use, and you'll see in a short while, because we're not talking about short courses. We're talking about fairly extensive courses. And that was the first day program. And they brought out the curriculum, we developed training material, and we've had a whole host of people that have gone through the accreditation process with us successfully, and Penny is the one that manages that. She'll talk a little bit more about that in a moment. Okay, so here's the second date. So I first said June 2023, now September 23. And then, since then, the arme QCTO bakkie has been stuck in the sand. Oh, wow. And we understand how frustrating it is for them. The people at QCTO are as frustrated as you and I and Penny. But we've got some progress. And with the deadline looming as the June 2026 deadline, where they cancel all unit standards. Maybe they extend them, but that's what they publish. They're going to cancel it. So June 2026 is the next date in your mind. Bear that in mind. Okay. So with a little bit of information. We've got a document called the roadmap, and the roadmap will talk about how to go about between now and when we've got all the QCTO skills programs curricula in place. You can, I think you can download it or we'll send it to you. There we go. Okay, it's back to the 11 QCTO programs. So we got notification and they told us about these programs.
Yes, so we have copies of the different letters as these courses were approved. We all got very excited in June when the first 5 were approved, and we immediately sent out a notice and very excited with our QCTO update. But then they were not published on the website, so we still couldn't make use of those. And then in July, there was another one that was approved by the QCTO committees. And then in August, there was another 4 that was approved. And then in September, another 1. So this makes a total of 11. And there is one that is already available for you, and it is published on the website, which is your Operations OHS Risk Assessor. And that's 2 credits, NQF Level 3, and that is already published. I have had an email from Carmen, who is the Deputy Director of Qualifications, and she has said very, very clearly that all of the skills programs have now gone through the necessary edits, etc. They are ready for the website, and in her words, they will be published any time now. So in South Africa, we have that term now or now. Or just now. So we're not quite sure when now is, but that was Wednesday and today is Friday, and we were so excited hoping that we would see them all there for you, but they're still not up on the website. But the promise is anytime now.
Excellent. Penny, can you just quickly explain what do you mean by approved and published?
So published is when they are formally now available to us in order for us to download the updated curriculums and the updated supporting documents and make sure that our training material is fully aligned to that curriculum. It's also available then for you to select. You can select up to a maximum of 5 skills programs at any one time for your accreditation applications, and they would then be available. So at the moment, the only one that's available is the OHS Risk Assessor, and of course the first aid ones as well. So you could do 3 first aid and 1 risk assessor right now. That'll give you 4. But we are expecting the others to be published now, and I know that most of you will want those low-hanging fruit. All those 2 credit ones are going to be very, very popular, and that would be the logical way to go right now. Get those first 5 2 credits in place, and then next year maybe do the next 5 as being the intermediate and advanced versions.
Great, that's fantastic. Now you say published where? Where's published? Where can our guests go to see it?
On the QCTO website. So if you go onto the QCTO website and you just look at the toolbar, you're going to select qualifications and look underneath there, and you're going to select skills, all skills programs. Click on that, and they've got a very nice sort mechanism that you can just sort by credit. So you'll immediately pick up where the short courses are in terms of the low credits. And at the moment, it's just the ones that we've been speaking about, but more to come.
There's a lot of terminology that you'll get to know if you're not familiar with it yet. And SAQA has a language of its own. And we call that SAQIsh, like English. And it's full of acronyms, and it's important that you get to know those as well. So when you're looking at the website, realize this is that some of the terminology might be a little weird. So if you look at some of these terms over here, like, so we've got the Occupational Risk Assessor, and then the Essential Occupational Health and Safety Compliance Insurer. Really weird. What's an insurer? Now, we can make up what an insurer is, but it's not a defined word in the English language, but they make them up. Okay, but bear with us. You'll see on the right-hand side that there's a column that says HIRA, ACTRA, CASRIB. These are our legal compliance training programs. And what we've done is, in anticipation of these curricula being published on the website, as Penny said, we will then convert our existing training material, in addition to being a legal compliance course, we'll convert it to meet the requirements and align it with the QCTO curriculum. There we go. Okay, so let's carry on talking about it, because now they have launched the first, meaningful one since the first aid programs. and that's the hazard identification and risk assessment. That's HIRA is a term that we use in the health and safety world, but what they've called it an operational health and safety risk assessor, which is great. And Penny was talking about levels. There's NQF level 3 and credits 2. And for those of you that are new to this conversation, what credits means, it relates to a thing called a notional hours. And every credit is 10 notional hours, 10 hours worth of training. So if you look at that, you go, oh, well, that's 20 hours worth of training. However, it's not 20 hours worth of classroom training. It's 20 hours worth of all told training with all the different facets and elements. So if you see a training program there with 50 credits, that would be 500 hours. And the way you work that out is it's about a third of that time, which is actual classroom, face-to-face or online training that takes place. Important to know, but you'll get your head around that as you get into the training world. You'll also see that there is a couple of numbers there. There's a skills program number, the SP250603. That number replaces the old unit standard number. And then you will see that there's another number as well, which comes up called a code. And there's the codes. Penny?
So these following 7 programs have just recently been approved for development. So what that means is that they've still got to go through a number of different steps before they are finally approved by the QCTO Quality Committee and then made available to be published on the website. So I think we're going to be looking at these becoming available hopefully February, March 2026, something like that. But we will certainly keep you posted. I know you're all looking at ergonomics because that's such a popular one. And there's 8 mentions in ergonomics regulation that training must take place for each and every employee.
And refresher training.
Yeah, and I mean, that's 17 million employees that have to be trained in ergonomics, you know, so this is a very, very important one. We're all looking forward to that.
Okay, so now you find strange terms here, like number 1, appropriate ergonomic user. What do you mean appropriate? I'd love to have a chat to somebody who wrote this thing. Then number 3, ergonomic condition monitor. Like, what's the difference? And so forth. But it's important that we know that this is what they're doing, and then you apply the typical normal health and safety.
I think what's really important and exciting and encouraging here is after a 2-year delay, we're now seeing skills programs for health and safety training coming through in a more rapid way. And that means that you don't have to spend so much time explaining to clients why you cannot offer accredited training for these very important subjects and very important courses. You will now be able to work with their HR department and their chief financial officer and, you know, state that you are accredited for these courses. But remember, you can only apply for 5 at a time, so it is going to be a bit of a process.
Yes, absolutely. And from a marketing point of view, if you're looking at marketing your training services, to be able to say to a client that we do have QCTO accreditation for courses other than first aid, from a marketing point of view, it's important, and I'm sure you'd appreciate that. But then also a developmental point of view, when you're developing your team, that your team become facilitators, assessors, and moderators so that they can run these programs for you as well. But more about that now, orientation and our onboarding and so forth. Then, Penny, you got communication from the 𝗤𝗖𝗧𝗢𝗍.
Yes, so I was able to attend the last working group session with 𝗤𝗖𝗧𝗢𝗍. It was excellently facilitated and some robust participation. In particular, there's SAISA and Fire Protection Association of South Africa involved and a number of other stakeholders. And they are currently working on finalizing 7 skills programs for fire. I'm still looking for the very low credit one that would kind of like replace, you know, those essential unit standards that we had. I think it was 1, 2, what was it again?
But now, it is important to know
those very, very basic unit standards.
These programs, sorry, Penny, I'm interrupting. These programs are not the typical industrial firefighter, the volunteer firefighter. These are professional firefighters and or people that are involved at a much higher level of firefighting. So we're waiting for it. When do you think that's going to come out for the low credit?
They were really pushing to try and get it through in November for the November committee meeting, the QCTO Quality Committee meeting, but it seems doubtful, in which case it's going to be early 2026. I think we're going to see these.
Okay, so having said that, if we haven't got these in place yet, what do you suggest would we do, Penny?
I think everybody has been falling back on the legal compliance training material. We've got an excellent course which combines the two basic unit standards that were so important and so valuable previously. And that is really the base. That is the base of your fire training.
Yeah, absolutely. So for somebody that needs to give just general knowledge about fire and fire prevention, protection, things like that, you would use our fire track, and then you would use our evac track. It's the evacuation program. And that means you can actually comply, or your employer or client can comply with the law.
That's right. I was just looking quickly. Those unit standards were the old 252, 250, apply firefighting techniques, and 12484, conduct basic firefighting. So this is the kind of basic level that we're looking for from 𝗤𝗚𝗃𝗃, and we'll be lobbying for that very strongly.
And then there's more. Another group of programs have been published as a result of the work that TETA, the Transport SETA, has done. And there are 5 of them. And these are already on the website, and you can go and check them out. We do not have training material for this yet. We will be developing 1 or 2 of the basic programs in the near future. But bearing in mind, this is, again, it's not just handling chemicals. This is large bulk containers and trucks, when the health and safety rep is barely involved in this. But Penny?
And it's important to know in terms of our work scheduling, like, if this is a very important area for you, please do let us know when you are applying for your prime license, etc. Because what we do then is we prioritize, or we purchase in, etc., to make sure that you do have the training materials that you require.
We have somebody that's standing by that is knowledgeable and many years experience on this topic. Okay, then, Penny?
So there are numerous skills programs already available for forestry by the FP&M SETA, also some occupational health and hygiene skills programs. There are many skills programs available for machinery, cranes, forklifts, etc. So that's been a good area. It's been extremely well attended to. And mining, of course, are very strong. So if these are areas of interest for you, please do have a look. These are all massive credits. And as I say, we like to focus on the low credits, under 8 credit area. But if this is important for you, let us know once again, and we will be able to assist you definitely.
100%. So please take note of that website. Go and visit the website. Go there regularly. Go and check it out and do the sort that Penny was talking about. Okay, and now, working at heights. Penny?
Yes, so I was just chatting to Dr. 𝗤𝗚𝗃𝗃𝗃 again today, and she says that the interim process that they introduced, because they were just getting nowhere after 4 years of trying. And as we all know, working at heights is extremely important. And this is where the vast majority of fatalities and injuries take place, is in working at heights. And therefore, having proper certified training is essential. It cannot just be done at a low level. It's got to be done at a high level and well-approved high level. Get it?
Yeah, high level.
So they've actually introduced their own interim process since July. It's going well. They're actually going to make it a permanent process as from next year. These are her words, and it may well affect 𝗤𝗚𝗃𝗃𝗃 accreditation directly for those courses going forward. But it seems to be working successfully. I know a lot of our licensees have already got involved with the process. And if you want more information, you need to get hold of their professional secretary, who will be able to send you all the necessary details. You would need to register with the ASDSA before even you can consider moving forward with the IWH. Some of you are already members with the IWH, so there might be a slightly quicker way for you in terms of the way forward. And they are bringing out their own training material, they promise by June of next year, which would be available to their members.
So as you can hear, there's been a lot of progress in the recent past. It took some time for them to get up and running, and I do believe that the staff members at QCTO and SETA and SACWA and places like that have been under enormous pressure, because like everybody else, we're saying, when is it coming? And it appears as though it is starting. The motion is starting. They're getting the bucky out of the sand. Penny spoke about training material being developed. Now, QCTO themselves don't write course material. Important to note. QCTO also don't accredit course material. 𝗤𝗖𝗃𝗲𝗃, when they come to do the site visit, will focus on the learner matrix of the course material either you've developed or the material that's been provided to you. And 𝗤𝗖𝗃𝗲𝗃 allows you, or anybody that knows what they're talking about, to develop course material. And that's interesting. And I'm sure there are many people out there in our audience now and out in the marketplace who have a very good understanding of these topics. And you're then able to get this training material and update it, modify it, sort of adapt it, customize it, and write the specific dangers, hazards, and risks into it. And part of our prime license is we'll provide you with a lot of training material. We currently have over 65 programs, all told, that we will be working with, and then ultimately you will get these training programs to work with, and slowly but surely we'll go through the process of rewriting. When you get your training material, what happens is that we develop it in Microsoft Word for Windows and PowerPoint, and we deliver it via Google Drive. And these are the documents that you're going to receive. And they include facilitator and learner guides. They include facilitator visuals and workbooks. They will include FEASers. What's a FEASer? FISA, Penny?
Well, this is a very important part of the 𝗤𝗖𝗃𝗲𝗃 training material for skills programs. And in fact, Carmen was saying, the Deputy Director of the Quality section, that this was the big hiccup with publishing the OHS skills programs, in that the FEASers were not correctly laid out, etc. There were all sorts of issues with the FEASers, and therefore they had to go into a complete re-edit on the FEASers. So yes, you can create your own training material, of course, but I think it's so much value to you and such a time saver to be able to make use of the INTRA training material, because it is already aligned to what the 𝗤𝗖𝗃𝗲𝗃 is asking you for. And when the verifier comes to your site visit, they're going to be asking these specific questions, and they want to see the FEASer in a particular format. And if it's not done like that, then you're going to be given remediation and asked to present it, and then you're going to run around like,
and go to the bottom of the queue.
In a panic,
You land up at the bottom.
trying to find what you need and buy it on the internet, etc., etc. So much easier to get everything done for you. Then your job is simply to check and double check, and then add your own spin, etc., and ultimately to customize according to your own clients and, of course, your own logos and things like that.
So talk about spin, your head's probably spinning with all this information and terminology and requirements. But don't worry. Die Afrikaans het gesê, hulle sê dit is doenbaar.
Yes,
It's
absolutely.
doable.
And we're so proud of our licensees that have come through their accreditation so successfully, getting a lot of compliments, etc., as to the quality of their training material and also the quality of their site visits. So absolutely, you can do it, and we do assist you with that process. Good to also mention that within the training material, we do partially fill out Form 3, which is your program implementation, and Form 4, the learning matrix.
And Penny will talk about the accreditation process in a moment. But there we go. This is what you're going to be receiving, and maybe more. And there are things like administrative documentation, such as certificate templates and attendance lists and things of that nature. But we'll talk more about that when we get to the actual workshops. So let's go back to what we were saying. We're going to suggest that you become a prime accredited occupational health and safety training provider. We've got a document called the prospectus, and the prospectus, especially now the Black Friday prospectus, covers almost everything we're talking about. That means that you'd be able to take this information to your partners or to your employer or someone like that and lay it before them, and you'd be able to say, this is the idea. This is what we can do. This is how we're going to save a huge amount of money. This is what's going to benefit us in terms of getting up and running as quickly as possible with our accreditation. That's all in the Prime license. And that prospectus is available on our website. Now, really important to note that essentially, if we had to sell every single component, the products and the services and the training material and things of that nature, including our e-learning platform and our online marketing setup, it's about R250,000. And that's what you're looking at. Not to pay. But what we've done is that we've actually structured it in such a way to make it very affordable. We have an upfront fee of a portion of that, the 250,000 or thereabouts, and we'll talk about how the license fee works as well. So now this is where the rubber hits the road. To get your accreditation is a process, and Penny has really made this a speciality. I'm going to suggest that you download this book, The Road to Success, off the 𝗤𝗖𝗃𝗲𝗃 website and study it. Almost so, we would say, don't call us if you haven't read this book, because just to go through this individually with the person is a long journey. You can hasten the journey, and you would then have the answers for yourself, or some of the answers for yourself. This is particularly useful. Okay, Penny runs these DIY accreditation workshops so that you can become a QCTO accredited training provider.
Well, thanks, Ken. So we quickly realized back in January of last year that it was going to be a repetitive process, especially because they limit the number of skills programs that you can be accredited for at any one time. So you're going to apply for 5 now in November, and then come February, March of next year, you're going to apply for another 5. The process of getting your accreditation is a very repetitive one. And so we really felt strongly that our licensees should be empowered to be able to do their own accreditation. They save so much time, so much money. And I must say the feedback that we've had from the licensees has been nothing short of outstanding. And going forward over the next few years, as we see this catch-up process happening with the QCTO, you don't have to pay another 10,000, 20,000 Rand each time. You can actually just go ahead and do it yourself. And at the moment, there's no costs involved directly with the QCTO for accreditation, which is also very helpful.
The next workshop is on?
Next week, Thursday, the 6th of November. And I think there's one more in December, and that's it for 2025. Can you believe it? We're at this time of the year already. We have a vast Google Drive Accredit Kit that we deliver to you, which has all the checklists, policy documents, etc., etc. And the monthly workshop, which we also provide to you as a recorded version, is really a way of explaining the overall process, giving you an idea of timelines, explaining what to do when, and pointing to where you are going to get your QMS template, for example, and this, that, and this. And good to know that our QMS, for example, is reviewed and renewed every year. And our development team, headed by Delene, do an excellent job of keeping it aligned to the QCTO policies. Unless there's lots, we don't have time now to go into all of the ins and outs as to what we help you with, but we definitely clear everything up and make sure all the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed, so you don't have to panic, that you can feel confident. The next workshop that we're working on is, now you've got your accreditation, now what? Because there are very specific requirements in terms of the quality control, in terms of your assessments and how you report back to the QCTO, etc., and ultimately get those certificates delivered to you.
Previously, we would go to somebody that will do the accreditation for us. She'd be a consultant, or he'd be a consultant, and it costs a lot of money, but you lose control of your own business. In other words, there's an outsider, generally speaking, who would actually know what's going on in your business, and when somebody comes to you to ask you the questions, you're flawed. So this way, we feel it's really empowerment. Okay, Penny, thank you so much. At this stage, what I want to do is I want to just quickly talk a little bit about the fact that we've got a whole host of people that have just come in now. And the people that have just joined us, welcome. Nice to have you with us. And we're recording this. At the end of the session, what Natalie will do is she will give you or send you the URL, and you can go back and you can watch it. And we're going to encourage you to do that. So I wanted to just quickly talk face-to-face with you. Folks, this is doable, but you need to be diligent. Given the fact that on the one hand, we've got the QCTO and we've got the Occupational Health and Safety Act, which is criminal legislation, that means that you as an individual are empowered. Very, very important. If you're going to be dealing with a client and you're going to be a training provider, in terms of the Occupational Health and Safety Act, you're a contractor. And you have obligations to the client in terms of the Consumer Protection Act, and also, I think it's Section 38, where you assume certain duties for and on behalf of the client. And all of those are legal issues. So I don't want to scare you with that. I don't like scaring people with the law, but let's go back to our presentation. Okay. Now, Penny will help you describing how you set up for the site visit.
Absolutely. So, I mean, we've actually got QCTO verifiers as members of our licensee program, and they've been very helpful in taking us through the process. So each and every aspect, nothing to be scared of. Obviously, you're going to get a little bit nervous, you know, but if you've done site visits already for the SETAs, there's not a lot that's different, but there are some differences, and it's important to be well prepared. Back to Ken.
Great. Okay. So I told you that I had a training company, INTRA-Train, and we went through the process of getting accreditation. However, we then discovered that it is quite detailed, and you do need to have somebody that's going to pay attention and make sure that everything, all your I's are dotted and all your T's are crossed, and so forth. Okay, so let's move on. You can see from the photographs that there's a recommendation in terms of what your venue is going to look like. And we will then, we will then help you set all of that up. Now, Penny has recently introduced a new product called the Prime Plus. I've just said we got somebody to do our accreditation for us, but you might be in a situation where you just do not have the time. And instead of spending 30, 40, 50,000 Rand with somebody else, we just increased the price of the Prime license and added in the things that she's been talking about. And one of our team will walk with you. We won't do it all for you. We will hold your hand. We will take you down the road. We'll be available to answer questions, but we're not going to sit and fill in all the forms for you. It's as simple as that.
Well, almost, almost fill out everything. But yes, so we do recognize that everybody is very, very busy. And even with the best will in the world, sometimes it's just absolutely not possible. So the Prime Plus here really solves a need. And if you feel you want that 100% project managed approach, with kind of daily follow-ups, etc., until such time as you have your accreditation in place, absolutely, this is the one for you. Yeah, this program is also running very successfully, and we're very proud of the quality of the licensees that are coming through this right now.
Great. I just see Rue's got a question there. We'll handle all the questions right at the end, and let's get on. I see the time is marching by. I don't know if you know about this, but at one stage, the QCTO intimated that they were going to charge for every single course being accredited. Once again, there was an outcry, and that meant that they withdrew that. They suspended this thing for a while. Penny, do you have any insight on that?
Well, we just know that at the moment it is suspended, but we don't know whether they will reintroduce this or not. So at the moment, that's why I also encourage licensees to get their accreditation in place as quickly as possible.
Sure.
I think most of our licensees, a lot of them already have the first aid in place. And as these new OHS skills programs become available, they'll quickly put their applications in November for these as well. But very important, because it could be very, very costly. And we definitely want you to avoid that.
Absolutely. Thanks, Penny. Appreciate that. Good. They say forewarned is forearmed. And part of the warning is this: not that we expect climate change and you're going to have a flood in your building, but I think the QCTO is going to have a flood of applications, and it will literally be a tsunami, because you can imagine if 11 new programs come through and every single training provider in South Africa wants accreditation for, let's say, half of them alone, it's going to place a burden on them. So get your application in place as quickly as possible. And Penny will talk you through that. The document is called the prospectus and the application, and we'll get that to you. You complete it, you send it back to us, and we will then start working with you. Okay, so what are we looking at in terms of the costs? I'm going to ask Natalie to come on board now and just talk us through every single one of the prices as we come up here, and the amount. Is an upfront fee, and then there's also a monthly license fee. Starting with Platinum. Nats, over to you.
Sure. So the platinum license starts at 105,500, and we've got the Black Friday discount on the right-hand side, and the annual license fee is negotiated dependent on the number of employees.
Right. So you remember I said that you get value of about 250,000 Rand. Instead of charging you all, you can pay it up front if you wish, but instead of charging it, we amortize that over a period of 60 months. And you pay a license fee every single month and then continue receiving all the services. Okay, Natalie, next one.
The Prime license has an upfront fee of 49,500, and the Black Friday price is 44,550. The monthly license fee on that is 1,500 per month.
And that continues for 60 months.
Then we have our Prime Plus, and the upfront fee is originally 69,500, less 10% makes it 62,550.
And then
Then we have our basic license, has an upfront fee of 29,500 less 10%, making it 26,550, also with the same monthly license fee of 1,500 per month.
Now, you remember that I mentioned the prospectus, and in the prospectus, it'll talk about what you get for the 1,500. Not only the upfront stuff that we deliver, but you will also be getting additional information and support and so forth.
Then we have our starter bundle that has an upfront fee of 15,500 less 10%, making it 13,950. And we have the monthly fee on that one at 500 Rand per month.
Wow. Okay. So it's a huge, huge discount. 10% is really, really beneficial. And we trust this is going to help you get your business up and running. But if you decide not to join as a licensee just yet, you can acquire any of those training programs, the 26 programs we're talking about, you can acquire off our website. And it means that you can build a library, and then any expense that you incur will be discounted on the upgrade. So if you go from, I've got some training material from you guys, but I want to become a starter. Obviously, there is a discount or a saving there.
So what we do is we deduct and we credit you for what you've purchased previously up to a maximum of 50% of the new upfront fee. So this can be very, very helpful when you're going from basic, for example, to prime. So basic excludes any of the 𝗤𝗖𝗃𝗃𝗿𝗀 and accreditation support and the 𝗤𝗖𝗃𝗃𝗿 training materials and the SAQA training materials. It's purely just the legal compliance. So a lot of our basics are already upgrading now to prime so that they can take advantage of the new OHS skills programs.
And then today we were talking to a client who was a prime, and they want to take the service to all of their branches around the country. So that's an upgrade to platinum. Now, I'm sure you understand how the process works. Now, from there, we then say, good, we now have a product that you could probably use within the next month or so, where you get up and running, start generating income from the legal compliance training. And it's a very doable application. We'll talk you through it. We've got an orientation session, we've got an onboarding session, and we will tell you step by step by step how to do that. I mentioned there's this document called the roadmap, which is ours. It's an intro document, which will show you exactly what's required of you. So we'll talk about that later on. And then finally, I'm going to wrap up by just providing you with the next step. So Penny, would you like to talk through those 6 points?
Absolutely. Well, thank you firstly for being with us today. We had a record turnout. Obviously, this is something that people have been waiting for a long time. And please do feel free to join us in the month of November. Every Wednesday, we will be running an information session at 12 o'clock every Wednesday. And those sessions are free and will give you more information about the license program. And number one is, legal compliance training is what's needed every day. Every day, employers need to make sure that their employees are safe and are able to get home safely to their families at the end of the day. So every single day, health and safety, legal compliance training is the order of the day, and that's legally required. Then we suggest become a prime licensee and look at getting your 𝗤𝗖𝗃𝗃𝗿𝗃 accreditation in place, making sure that you are going to be head and shoulders above the competition at 2026 and going forward, and paving the way for other programs that you want to add to your suite going forward. So apply for 5 skills programs now. And as we know, Carmen's promise from the 𝗤𝗖𝗃𝗃𝗿𝗃𝗃 department, anytime now, hopefully by the end of this afternoon, but they will be available in November, I'm sure. She was very clear. And you will be able to apply for your first 5 at least, and then you can go forward from there. Present credit-bearing training. We know that it's a massive, massive marketing requirement for bigger companies, etc. They are always asking you for accredited training, so this is going to make sure that you have the ability to do that. And remember also, one of the big advantages of being an INTRA licensee is that you're part of a tribe and you can network with other INTRA licensees that have skills and verifications and approvals and licenses and accreditations that you need. But for a particular client, rather than say no to a client, you'll be able to collaborate and partner with other licensees. So this is a very, very powerful advantage of being part of the INTRA program. and request a quote. This is Natalie's business number, 082-499-6911. Request a quote, request the prospectus. I know she's been putting some notifications into the chat box, but please do make sure that you're proactive and you get in touch with us as soon as possible, so that we can help you as soon as possible. We love meeting you individually. I know a lot of you that are here today have been in a process for some time, just checking us out and checking out what we're able to deliver to you and how we're able to help you. And we're looking forward now to having you on board finally.
Yes, and I know those people that have been saying we can't go ahead because our company said must be accredited. At last, hallelujah, at last we can move ahead and get people up and running as quickly as possible. Okay, so with that, you've got the details. Maybe you want to grab your phone, just take a shot of that screen. There's Natalie's number again, the Customer Relations Manager number, 082-499-6911. Or you can contact her on natalie@intrasafe.co.za, or you can go onto the website. And the website is full of very, very useful information. That's 082-499-6911. I'm going to suggest that you save her number in your phone, and she will then be able to communicate with you and you with her. Okay, from there onwards, I know that there are people out there that have questions that they want to ask. So I'm going to stop the recording in a moment, and we'll just open the microphones, and we'll do just for the next 10-15 minutes, go right ahead. So from Penny and myself, from Natalie and the team at Intra, we want to say thank you for joining us. Thank you for many of you coming a long way and your incredible patience. Wow, 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 wow. And at last, there's light on the horizon, and the spaceship, the 𝗤𝗖𝗃𝗍𝗃 spaceship has taken off. So from you to us to you, play safe, stay safe. Bye for now.
Bye for now.